Hi guys, hoping you are all okay and that you've had a good week. I have had quite a quiet week actually, but I haven't had a lot of questions or anything in either. But I was going to talk to you about something that I was reminded of today. So today I went out and I've been working with this beautiful Labrador puppy who is he's absolutely stunning. He's friendly, he's happy, he's bouncy, he's everything you want a puppy to be. But when he goes outside, he is crazy. And I'd been teaching last week his human just a few loose lead walking games and a few focus games and stuff like that. And when I got to see him this week, I was expecting him to have been practiced outside and done okay and practiced maybe in the street a little bit and doing okay. And I had a few ideas of what I was going to teach them. And when I got there, the guy told me that the dog had really been struggling as soon as they get past the fence, as soon as they get out the back garden, he struggles. And at first I thought it was, just a little bit of a proofing issue. And for most of the parts, sometimes when dogs can't quite manage something in one area, but they've been able to do it at home or, where it's nice and quiet, usually it is a proofing issue. So it just means they have to practice or maybe they have to learn over again in the new area. But this dog, he just really was not that interested in the rewards and the treats that we had. And whereas at home, he was happy to work for rewards and he was happy just to join in and play, outside, he was so excited and so overwhelmed by the world around him that he couldn't cope with it, let alone take treats and do things. So I was reminded that we have to work with the dog in front of us. Now, we still want our dog to learn the same things as every other dog. We just had to get a bit creative in how we taught it. So for me, when a dog is outside and they're that excited, the first thing we need to teach them is to be focused on us, to look back to us, to remember that we actually exist. Because if they can't do that, how are we going to teach them anything? So where before he had been hanging on the end of the lead and pulling up and down the road and going absolutely crazy, I asked his owner just to take him out to play instead of going for walks. I mean, they will still go for walks. The dog does need a run every so often on the field and that kind of thing. But for just day-to-day stuff, he really could do with just going out to play. And what we did is instead of doing the walk, the train and walk that I'd expected to be doing, we just adjusted all our expectations, and instead, the whole focus of the lesson was just getting the dog to pay attention to us instead of walking to heel or being, sitting at curbs and doing all these well-behaved behaviors that we would have expected a calmer dog to be able to do. And what we managed to do is instead of using treats all the time, we found that he really loves rope toys. So we began playing with the rope toy. Every time he started to get a little bit excitable or he started to want to, unless we needed to reward him for anything, we would whip the rope toy out from behind our back and play with that for a few seconds. And we actually started managing to train a drop it at the same time because when we let go of the rope toy and held out a few treats, he would then drop it to take the treats. So we could start training a drop it at the same time, which was really quite useful. And as his attention started to turn to us instead of everything else that was going on in the street, we were then able to start getting a few little cues in. We were able to start getting, some waiting at the side of the road. We were able to get a few steps of loose lead walking in together, or or some looking at his owner's face, etc. But if we'd have kept trying with treats and just expected him to be able to do it, then the whole session would have been an absolute disaster. But as it was, we actually managed to get him off the property and even walking up and down a few times quite calmly. I mean, he did get the zoomies quite a lot as well. But I imagine that if we start playing with the rope and doing a little bit more playing with him outside, a little bit more tug of war, that kind of thing, I think that'll burn off some of his energy and that will help him to calm down a little bit as well. And also the amount of time that he then spends outside with things going on in the background while he's interested in doing stuff with his human, that's going to help with his socialization too. So normally dogs, they can see things at a distance and they just, as puppies they might accept that they're there, but they're generally more interested in their owners or their owner's food or whatever the owner is doing. Well, this dog would not be, so we have to sort of up our game a little bit and make ourselves just a little bit more interesting to him, so that he still gets to see all those things, and but we're not by any means punishing his behaviors or making, trying to stop him from being so joyful in life. Because at the end of the day, he wants to see all these things because he's excited. We don't want to take that away from him. All we want him to do is be able to remember that his owner is still there and that there are certain ways of behaving near the road, and that, that he has to manage to come back and, not yank his owner down the street and so on. So by adjusting our expectations of him and changing from a cue based, almost an obedience lesson, into a game of let's go and play on the street and just give our owner some attention, we actually got the cues and things that we wanted to practice. And now all they've got to do is just keep practicing that little bit more. So it's super important when we do consider the dog in front of us to think about things like what treats they like, what rewards they like, what games they like. Is there anything going on? Say this puppy, for example, is teething, so there's a lot of stuff going on with his energy levels and his hormones and that, because he's about to enter puberty. So he's got a lot going on at the moment, and there's no wonder that he feels excited. But working with him instead of just trying to force a square peg into a round hole is so much more sensible, and it's going to be much more beneficial to him. And in doing so, not only are we helping the puppy to learn in a way that the puppy can cope with, we're also making it fun for him rather than making it a boring drill. And that's going to build a stronger bond between him and his human. And it's also going to reduce the stress and anxiety and the pressure that both of them are going to be feeling, because instead of having a strict regime of having to do certain cues and having to perform certain things over and over and over again, all they have to do is go and play and occasionally throw a cue or something in between, and the dog will naturally start to pay more attention to his human and start to be more present with his human while the training's going on. So, I mean, there's plenty of things that we can always think of to adapt our training sessions to the dog in front of us. And I just want you to think, if things are going a little bit wrong, if things are going a little bit awry with your own training sessions, with things that you're trying to teach your dog and they're not quite getting it, is there something you can change that will suit the dog to help them to learn more effectively? If you want some ideas, do get in touch. You know how to find me. Okay. And I will see you all next week. All right. Bye bye.